So, as a neuroscientist, I'm always interested in diversity. And if you look at the arguments that are going on in the world today, I do feel that there are some misguided and misdirected efforts, which makes life less happy, rather than more happier. And let me explain why I think so. People talk a lot about the importance of diversity and the importance of embracing all these different among us. But when they do so, they tend to focus on these external aspects of our heterogeneity, like gender, male, female, LGBTQ, and ethnicity, white, Asian, African, Hispanic, and so on. These collective terms, and then they tend to talk in terms of identity politics and in groups and out groups and so on. But for me, these are really superficial approaches to diversity. Uh, in Japan, for example, there's a lot of talk about gender equality, and I am all for it. And we do need to have more female leaders. We should have a first female prime minister soon, and women should be represented at any stages of the society, and wherever they want to go, they should be allowed to go. And I'm all in for that. However, having said that, too many people complain that, for example, if you look at the board members of a company, they are only middle-aged senior males, and they look all the same. And this is a problem, and because they don't, belong to the same category. They might appear to, belong to the same category of middle-aged men, but inside they are totally different. The inside life of their, tastes, orientations, and life histories. These are all different. So there's this incredible heterogeneity, diversity within the so-called middle-aged man. So, identity politics or, gender equality arguments sometimes ignore this fact. They treat as if, a middle-aged man, one category, and they say that there's not enough diversity in it, but there is an incredible amount of diversity in it, and people ignore them at their own risk. The same thing can be said about ethnicity. When they say, for example, in Hollywood, there is over representation of white males, that may be true. And it would be great to have more women and minority people represented in the spectrum of those who are awarded. And it was, in the last episode of Academy Awards, there were many Asian women represented, and that was wonderful. Having said that, it is wrong to say that when you say there are only white males, if you imply that there's no heterogeneity in it, there's no diversity in it. Of course, there are some diversity in it. I mean, and you ignore them at your own risk. Among white males, there are incredibly different kinds of people. For example, some people might like to play soccer. Some people might like to watch American football, but others might just want to stay inside and read some poetry books or do some gardening stuff. And others might want to go out to the sea and do fishing, and yet others would probably prefer to go into the mountains and go on a long distance hike. So there's this incredible amount of diversity in a group which other people tend to characterize as homogeneous and lacking in diversity. This is a very ubiquitous problem. We tend to, define diversity in terms of some external factors like ethnicity, gender, and so on. But that is fine to some extent. But if you say that that is the only relevant aspect of diversity, then you are evidently wrong because there are other aspects that are equally important. And even within one group which may seem to be homogeneous from outside view, there are this incredible richness of diversity. And if you fail to see that, then you fail to see the essence of life. That is the ubiquitous problem that we are facing today. And mind you, seen from this internal diversity, which exists within a seemingly homogeneous group, uh, if you see it from the internal diversity aspect, then there's surprising link between seemingly different groups of people. For example, those people who like to see watch manga and anime in Japan, they would have similar orientations with those people who are anime and manga lovers in the United States. So if you compare these two demographies, there will be a lot of similarities. On the other hand, there might be people who prefers to read literature, the classical literature, and those people who would not be so keen on anime and manga. So if you compare those people who prefers to read traditional classical literature, then there will be much similarities between these people in Japan and in the United States or in the United Kingdom. Those lovers who go to classical music lovers who go to opera, they will have similarities, whether they come from Japan or China or Korea or whatever. So defining people just by their external, categorizations like ethnicity and gender is the relevance of it is very limited when you think about the whole spectrum of human existence. So I suspect that this is a problem that too much political correctness can have, from time to time in a modern society. There are people who say that PC is has gone too far. I'm not that kind of person. I think political correctness is a very important aspect of our modern life and should be pursued. However, I do believe that it's not the only picture. I mean, there are many other things that we need to take into account, and most importantly, we need to focus on internal diversity in people who seems to be homogeneous from outside view. Let me say it again. We need to focus more on internal diversities among people who appear to be homogeneous from outside view. White males, Asian females, certain age groups, LGBTQ people. When you say a person is gay, having said that, it doesn't actually equate to understand to having understood him or her. I mean, the fact that a person is gay that has nothing to do with his or her inner diversity. He or she might have all these different, rich diversity in terms of preferences and music loved, manga loved, novels loved, and whether they believe in many worlds interpretation or whether they believe in the simulation hypothesis. All these different, possibilities where they like to have coffee black or whether they would like to have white coffee or whether they don't drink coffee at all, whether they are meat lovers or they are vegans, all these different aspects of people, which we fail to appreciate and which are actually very important in appreciating the individuality of people. Let me come to a final, statement that I believe that, having seen all these really complicated, multi-layered aspects of diversity, I do believe that the phenomenal aspects of experience, namely a conscious experience, I think it's a common denominator for all of us. So whether you are gay or straight or an Asian or white American or an African American or an expatriate living in Singapore. I think we all share the same spectrum of phenomenal experience, characterized by qualia and consciousness, and that is why I believe that studying how consciousness works is very important in today's world, because that is a common denominator that would be common for all of us. And you know that is the arena, that is a stage on which all these wonderful stories about life's diversity is played out. So I think consciousness studies is a wonderful crossroads at which the common in us and the heterogeneous and diverse in us meet, and that makes life so wonderful. So here's to diversity, both external and internal, and to a common basis of phenomenal experience.